Hello. Excellent. Good morning, Dublin. I said good morning, Dublin. Hello. I'm not really a rock star, but I'm here to entertain you for the first presentation. So my name's Simon Ashworth from ZHAW. Oh, some of my content is missing on the slides. Anyway, there's meant to be my colleagues' names there, Karsten Druman and Tenny Streeter, who also worked on this presentation. I'm here to talk about the benefits of BIM to facility managers and over the whole life cycle of assets. So the real rock star for me is actually this person here. This is Tenny, one of my students who worked with me 2017 to just finish this year. The work you see here is based on her research. As Matt said, we have to promote work from researchers. So she's based in America now. If anybody's interested, you can see her stuff there. So what am I going to talk about today? I'm going to briefly introduce the research, show you the research questions that Tenny actually investigated, briefly go over the design, and then I'm going to talk about how she tried to categorize benefits of BIM to facility management. And then I'll show you the conclusions and some reflection from her side. So for anybody in the room who has never actually seen a BIM model before, this is a model created by another rock star called Michaela Meslek from our university. It's a model of our actual building there in Switzerland, in Zurich. And I have two key points now, just to get the mind going. Doesn't really matter how much the money is, but in the US, it's been shown to be 15.8 billion a year gets wasted on inoperability, and in the UK, about 100 million a year is on the lack of information and shared structured information in models. So traditionally, we move from construction to operation. Yeah, if we think about BIM in operation, what this model here is meant to represent is on the left-hand side, you have all the construction people. They have loads of BIM knowledge and how we're building digital buildings these days in their head. And they're going to hand across to FM lots of 3D models, lots of information in terms of PDFs and data. And somehow the FMs are magically meant to pick that up, turn it into services, turn it into costs and other things. And this creates what I call a death valley of benefits. Plenty of opportunity to actually lose that information, lose that benefits. This model was developed with a colleague of mine, Andrea Stieli, in Zurich many years ago. But what I'm promoting is the idea that we should be trying to really think about what are the benefits from this new technology, this new digitization. We should be thinking right at the beginning of the process of building a built asset, how do we actually plan to get the benefits from construction to operation? So we have a series of steps. We need to clearly understand, first of all, what are the benefits? We need to try and be transparent because a lot of people, to be honest, are selling BIM on the concept of it can do this and it can do that. And a lot of clients are disappointed because it's not actually producing the results that they want. We also need to be clear about what's tangible and what's intangible in terms of the benefits. And then as researchers, we need to make that available to you, our clients, as facility managers. And then hopefully, we'll actually be able to move stuff across into the operational phase. So why focus on the in-use phase? Well, there's lots of research showing that most of the money that goes around operating a building is in the operational phase, and the timeline is much longer. You're talking at least 3 times as long as what it takes to build it, if not considerably more. But we're also talking about if you want to make good business decisions, you need good data and good information in order to make those decisions. If you don't have good data, then you're going to end up making bad decisions about managing our assets. So these are some of the problems that Tenny looked at during her research. I won't go through all of them, but I'll just say that the focus mainly in constructing assets is on the CapEx. How much does it cost to build it? People are not considering, actually, if I spend a little bit more money up front, I'll save a lot of money over the long run. There's also a digital skills gap, I think, in our industry. Construction people are doing BIM day in, day out now. They know what it is, but as FMs, we're actually going to receive the product from those people. In my past, I used to get whole cabinets full of drawings and specifications. Now we're going to get all that stuff digitally in the future. And if we don't educate our clients and owners as to why they need to use BIM or at least know about BIM, then they're not going to order buildings with BIM. And if we don't transfer these benefits across into operation, then potentially a lot of the benefits actually stop at that point of transition. So Matt Tucker and myself actually did some research as part of my PhD in 2017. We actually looked at benefits of BIM, and there's a lot of general agreement that it can help in a lot of ways, and 74% of people at the time actually believed that it will have a significant impact on our industry, and 83.5% said that they thought it would help deliver or support facility management. If anybody's interested, all of this research is free and available on ResearchGate from myself and Matt. So here are Tenny's three main questions, yeah? Is there a compelling list of evidence to say that BIM can actually help with facility management? What are those benefits and how can I categorize them? Because very often we would go to meetings and people would say, why should I do BIM? And the first question is, well, I've read this paper and I've read that paper, but I don't have a nice comprehensive list somewhere. So what she actually did is did a literature review, tried to come up with a list of benefits in the first place. Then she investigated using interviews to find out what the experts in industry actually thought about those things, and then categorized them. So she used lots of search words around BIM and facility management to try and find out in the literature. And her research methodology was a triangulation approach where she looked at literature, lots of journals, other articles, and then she tried to categorize these in benefits to facility management, maybe some of them were to construction, and it's quite subjective because there are some benefits which are beneficial to both parties, like snagging, for example. If I can de-snag a building, it's good for the construction people, but in operation it means I get a building that doesn't have a nightmare full of snags. Then she interviewed 9 experts and asked their opinion, what they thought about. So in total she had 68 items of literature out of about 94 that she actually reviewed. She identified 373 separate benefits. Then she tried to categorize those. So we have a big table with the actual piece of literature itself, what the general benefit was, and then she broke it down into detailed benefits and tried to categorize it as, was it actually tangible or intangible in terms of could it be measured or not measured. An interesting thing she found is that there's a peak in about 2014 when suddenly there's an interest in how much people are talking about benefits of BIM. And we think this might be to do with a lag behind the BIM mandate from the UK, for example, in 2016, that build up to that 2016, but also a paradigm change in whole life cycle approach, the way people are thinking. When she categorized all of these benefits, this is how they came up. So most of the categories are around time saving. Productivity and cost savings were the 3 top things that were talked about by literature and by the experts. And interestingly, about 42% of them, she thought, this is a subjective decision, but she thought might be measurable. And that's important because I think we need to think about measuring this in the future. She then did lots of work about looking at sub-themes and themes in terms of taking the interviews and actually using thematic coding. So she did a lot of work in the background. And these are just, I've chosen one example of each. So in terms of time saving, the literature talks about reducing costs and time. And people from the interviews were categoric. They said they definitely believe that it will save a lot of time in terms of populating FM systems and other management systems. In terms of productivity, literature talks about improvements to building performance. And a lot of the people in the interviews were talking about how the fact that they think that productivity will be increased with BIM as well. Cost savings, lots of literature on this, but interestingly not much on return of investment. There's a very good report by PricewaterhouseCoopers, which is one of the first places where they've tried to categorically measure return of investment from BIM, but most of the people who were interviewed actually were very much of the view that it will also produce whole life cycle savings and costs. Then in terms of business values, BIM will help automate things, regulate things, and interestingly, the interviewees actually felt it would be a very good marketing tool, hopefully not in a negative way by overselling BIM, but actually being able to sell buildings before they're even constructed to investors and also to renting out property. In terms of accuracy of data, it's obviously probably the main thing that BIM is thought about. And all of the interviewees basically agreed with this as well. In terms of collaboration, It's something that I think can be used, and I know this because with IWFM, we actually produced an EIR document which we used in a case study, and the people using it in the case study said it was great for collaboration, just for getting the team together. Energy modeling is something which is mentioned in the literature, but we didn't actually find many of the people in practice actually knew much about it or hadn't had any practical experience of it. But in terms of improving safety and risk management, a lot of the people from practice actually believed it would make life a lot easier to find information about product data sheets, hazards, and improving health and safety in terms of CDM and other things. Interoperability is something which was mentioned a lot in the literature. Not much from the interviewees, but for example, with IWFM, we're actually working on a BIM to FM guide at the moment, which should be published hopefully in a couple of months to help people with that. So in terms of conclusions and reflections, basically the experts validated a lot of what we found in the literature. Those are the 5 key things that seem to align, but there wasn't so many people as we would like in terms of interviews, and possibly it would have been nice to have a little bit more literature to look at. Tenny reflected on our questions here. The first question, basically, there's a growing collection of evidence, but because BIM is relatively new, we actually need to spend more time, get more case studies. So if anybody in the room knows anybody who has any case studies or would like to be involved in any case studies, we'd be very grateful to participate with people. Also, the categorization aspect is a little bit subjective. You know, what I think might be not necessarily what somebody else thinks. And we've actually set up a ResearchGate project where we've put all of this stuff online, and the idea is that we will make it free available to anybody who wants it, so that you as practice people and other students can actually use it. So these are the 6 main benefits that she thought were found in the literature. Basically improving information information management of information, streamline businessing processes, 3D visualization, used to be used as a marketing tool, improving the actual performance of buildings overall, and finally reducing waste in terms of whole life cycle costs and improving the asset management of buildings. So she made a couple of final recommendations. She thinks that we need to think about how we can actually measure the return on investment from BIM, both in a short-term and a qualitative and quantitative way. We need more hard evidence, so if anybody wants to sort of cooperate, please let us know. We need to get rid of the misconceptions around BIM that it can't do everything. We need to be realistic about what it can do and what it can't do. And finally, we need to address challenges. How do we educate people? How do we get skills of people up in the market, for example? How does it impact on our culture? And personally, what we are doing, and on the last point there, is, for example, at the university, we're actually now doing research on VR and AR to see how we can actually do remote monitoring using BIM and other technologies. So that's my presentation, 1 minute to spare. If anybody is interested in the ResearchGate project, the link is in the presentation. And if you send me a note via ResearchGate, we'll make all the research available to you, as Matt suggested, so that you can actually do something with it in practice. Thank you very much, everybody, on Tenny's behalf.